Breaking news. Ukraine outsmarts Russia with cheaper 155mm shells with consistency.
It is a massive shift in the industrial landscape of this war and, frankly, a shift in global defense economics.
It is Monday, February 2026. And before we get into how exactly Kyiv is rewriting the rulebook on artillery warfare, I have a quick request for you. If you support Ukraine, freedom, and justice, take a second right now. Subscribe to Defense Reports, your go-to source for timely, in-depth military and defense reports.
Absolutely. Staying informed is really the first step in understanding these complex dynamics.
Join me in the latest program by Defense Report for the latest in global defense news, military technology, and strategic developments. And today we're going to we are covering a revolution in logistics.
We really are.
We're talking about how Ukraine has successfully established domestic mass production of 155mm artillery shells.
And not just any shells.
Yeah.
We aren't talking about some kind of, desperation manufacturing here.
Exactly. I was reading the reports from Ukrainian Armor this morning, and the headline isn't just that they are making them, it's the price tag. They are producing these at a fraction of the cost of Western European market rates. I mean, we are talking about a fundamental shift in the economics of a war of attrition.
It really is the most impactful issue we've seen in the logistics sector in years. I mean, for a country under constant bombardment, to build a full-cycle ammunition industry from the metal casings to the volatile propellants, it's almost unheard of in modern history.
And there is a secret American connection involved here that I honestly didn't see coming.
Oh, this is a fascinating part of the story.
It turns out the most dangerous part of the process is happening in a very unexpected place, Arkansas. But we will get to that. First, let's unpack the money. Because wars run on money, and lately, artillery shells have become
Luxury items wouldn't be far off. The prices were insane.
Insane is fair. If we look back at the dark days of late 2023 and throughout 2024, the European market price for a standard 155mm shell just spiked.
Dramatically. We were seeing prices around 8,000 euros per unit on the spot market.
Right, and we need to clarify that for everyone listening. When we say spot market, we're talking about panic buying, aren't we?
Oh, completely.
That wasn't the cost to make a shell. That was the cost to get a shell now when everyone else wanted one too.
Precisely. Is the difference between buying a generator at Home Depot in July versus buying one on Craigslist while a hurricane is making landfall.
Good analogy.
It was a seller's market, pure and simple, driven by extreme scarcity. Governments were outbidding each other.
So that's the context, 8,000 euros a pop. But this new report from Vladislav Belbas, the CEO of Ukrainian Armor, completely flips the script.
It really does.
I was looking at the new figures, and they've got the cost of a domestic M107 shell down to approximately $2,500.
That is just a staggering drop.
It's less than a third of the panic price. And even their more advanced stuff, the L-15 shell with more TNT and a longer range, is only coming in at $3,000.
And that right there is where the strategic value lies. It puts Ukraine in a very competitive position, not just against the market, but against the enemy. We know the Russian cost is estimated around, what, $1,300 US, or roughly 100,000 rubles.
So Russia is still cheaper.
They are, yes, but that's due to a massive depreciated Soviet-era industrial base and, frankly, labor standards that wouldn't fly in the West.
Right.
But compare Ukraine's 2,500 euro to the U.S. Army. The U.S. pays about $3,000 for a standard M795 shell.
So Ukraine has managed to undercut European spot prices by a huge margin and is actually producing cheaper than the U.S. military-industrial complex.
That's the headline right there.
That is the part that surprises me. Ukraine is a war zone. You'd think the insurance premiums alone would drive the cost through the roof. How are they undercutting the U.S.?
Well, the war zone aspect is actually part of the savings. Counterintuitive.
How does that work?
When you import a shell from, say, France or Germany to Ukraine, you are paying for international logistics, hazardous material transport across borders, and yes, massive insurance premiums.
Okay.
By localizing production, building it where you shoot it, you strip all those external costs away.
Okay, so you save on shipping. That makes sense. But what about the manufacturing itself?
It comes down to two things.
Yeah.
Labor costs and bureaucracy. Domestic labor in Ukraine is, well, it's cheaper than in Germany or Ohio.
Sure.
But the bigger factor is the regulatory environment. In peacetime Europe, procurement is what we call gold-plated.
Gold-plated, you mean over-engineered?
I mean process-heavy. In the West, setting up a munitions factory involves years of environmental impact studies, safety certifications, noise ordinance compliance.
The red tape.
So much red tape. It prioritizes procedure over speed. Ukraine shifted to a wartime regulatory environment. They didn't cut safety corners on the explosive itself, but they absolutely cut the red tape on building the factory.
Right. They aren't spending 18 months waiting for a permit to pour concrete. They're just pouring it.
Exactly. And that efficiency effectively triples the value of financial aid.
Triples it.
Think about it. If a European partner donates 1 million euros, that money used to buy maybe 125 shells on the spot market.
Okay.
Now, it buys nearly 400 shells if they are ordered from Ukrainian factories. It's an incredible efficiency multiplier.
That is huge. It basically means the Western taxpayer gets 3 times the bang for their buck, literally, by funding Ukrainian industry.
And it moves Ukraine from, begging for ammo to making it. This is the full cycle ecosystem we're seeing emerge. It's not just assembling parts, it's making the components.
But they aren't doing this in total isolation. I was reading about this plug-in model. It seems like a very smart way to bypass the learning curve.
It is.
They aren't trying to figure out how to make high-tech fuses from scratch. They're just licensing them.
Correct. The partnership with the Czechoslovak group, CSG, is the prime example. CSG is a titan in the defense industry. They provide the license and the complex precision machine components like fuses and primers. Ukrainian armor handles the heavy steel bodies and the explosive filling.
So CSG provides the brain and the spark, and Ukraine provides the body and the muscle.
That's a great way to put it. Ideally, yes. Localization is currently at about 50%, but the aim is 80%.
And the numbers.
They are targeting 100,000 shells in 2025, scaling up to 300,000 in 2026. And you have to remember, Rheinmetall is doing the same thing.
The German plant.
The massive new plant inside Ukraine. It aims to pump out another 300,000 rounds annually.
Okay, but here's where we need to dig a little deeper. You can cast all the steel bodies you want. You can import all the fuses you want. But a shell is just a heavy paperweight without the propellant.
The energetics bottleneck.
Yeah.
This has been the silent crisis of the entire Western war effort.
And this is where that Arkansas story comes in. I think a lot of people miss the significance of this. Ukraine partnered with a company called D&M Holding to build a propellant factory in the U.S. Why the U.S.? And why is propellant such a headache?
Well, it's not just about building it in a safe place. It's about the chemistry. The West, we largely stopped making high-volume single-base propellant years ago.
Why?
We moved to cleaner, more stable triple-base or modular charges. We basically exported the dirty work of making basic gunpowder because it's low margin and environmentally messy.
So when the war started, we realized we had, forgotten how to make the basic fuel for the artillery in mass quantities?
Essentially, yes.
Yeah.
The industrial capability had atrophied. So Ukraine's partnership with D&M Holding in Arkansas is fascinating because it's effectively resurrecting a dead industrial capability on U.S. soil.
That's ironic. Ukraine is revitalizing American industry.
It is. This is the first single-base propellant factory built in the United States in over 50 years.
Wow.
They are building it there because Arkansas is safe from Russian cruise missiles, obviously, but also because the U.S. has the raw materials, the nitrocellulose, the chemicals, and a secure energy grid to run it.
It's a brilliant logistical play. You forge the heavy metal in Ukraine because shipping heavy steel across the Atlantic is expensive.
Right.
But you make the go juice, the lightweight but dangerous powder, in the safety of the U.S. and ship that in.
It's a distributed supply chain designed for survivability. If Russia bombs the steel plant, you still have the powder. If they somehow disrupt the powder shipment, you still have the steel.
It's much harder to knock out than a single mega factory.
Exactly.
It really highlights that MacGyver spirit we've seen from Ukraine. And speaking of which, I want to pivot to the tech side. We talk about factories, but some of the real innovation seems to be happening in the field.
The asymmetric warfare aspect, yes.
Absolutely. I saw a report about them using 155mm shells with drones. Now, wait a minute. A 155mm shell weighs, 100 pounds?
About 50 kilograms, yeah.
You aren't strapping that to a little DJI Mavic.
No, absolutely not. If you tried that, it wouldn't even lift off the ground. We are talking about the heavy lift class of drones. The troops call them Baba Yaga.
Right. These are those massive agricultural or industrial hexacopters, right? The ones that sound like lawnmowers in the sky.
Exactly. These are beasts.
Yeah.
And the logic is brutal, but incredibly effective. A standard 155mm shell costs, $2,500?
Right.
A GPS-guided Excalibur artillery round costs $100,000, and it can be jammed. But if you take a dumb 2,500 shell, strap it to a heavy-lift drone, and fly it directly over a Russian tank.
You've just created a precision-guided munition for pennies on the dollar.
And you don't wear out your artillery barrels, and you don't reveal your howitzer's position. It's turning a dumb industrial product into a smart weapon using consumer electronics.
It's terrifyingly efficient. But the other piece of tech that caught my eye isn't hardware, it's software. We know Ukraine has this zoo of artillery French Caesars, American M777s, German PZH-2000s.
It's a logistical nightmare, a total nightmare.
Right. And I've heard that even though they are all 155 millimeter, they don't all shoot the same way.
That's right. It's like trying to run the same software on a Mac, a PC, and a Linux machine.
Yeah.
Physically, the shell fits in the breech, but the ballistics, how the powder burns, how the barrel spins the shell, are all slightly different.
So if you use American firing tables for a French gun, you will miss.
By hundreds of meters, yes.
So how did they solve that? They didn't have time to rewrite all the manuals.
They outsmarted the problem with code. They use a system called Kropiva. It's a proprietary command software.
Kropiva? Okay.
A gunner can fire a few test shots, input the radar data into a tablet, and the software essentially learns the quirks of that specific gun and shell combination.
Wait, it generates a custom firing table on the fly.
Exactly. It's a universal translator for artillery. It allows them to take this chaotic mix of hardware from all over the world and turn it into a synchronized lethal network. It's software overcoming hardware limitations.
That is the definition of a force multiplier. But, and I have to play devil's advocate here, we are looking at these innovations and they are impressive. But Russia is a steamroller. We keep hearing that Russia, with North Korea's help, is pumping out 4.5 million shells a year.
That is the number, yes.
So frankly, is President Zelensky dreaming when he says Ukraine and the EU will match Russian production levels by 2026? I mean, 4.5 million is a massive number. Can the Western coalition actually hit that?
It sounds optimistic, I agree, but when you break down the math, it starts to look plausible. It's not just one country doing the heavy lifting.
Okay, walk us through the math.
Okay, so Europe is slowly but surely ramping up to a capacity of about 2 million shells. The United States is aiming for about 1.2 million.
So that's 3.2 million right there between Europe and the U.S.
Right. Then you add Ukraine's domestic production. And remember, they aren't just making 155 millimeter. They are ramping up the old Soviet calibers like 122 millimeters and 152 millimeters, which they still have hundreds of guns for.
Okay.
If Ukraine can hit that 1 to 1.5 million mark domestically across all calibers, the coalition hits parity.
But 2026 is still a ways off in a war. What happened in the meantime? How did they survive 2024 and 2025?
That's where the Shell Bridge came in. The Czech initiative was absolutely critical.
Right, I remember this.
They scoured the globe, found about 1 million shells in third-party countries, and bought them to fill the gap while these factories were being built. That bought the time for this 2026 goal to even be realistic.
And there is also the quality argument, right? Because I've seen the reports that the North Korean shells Russia's using are, well, inconsistent.
Inconsistent is a very polite word for it. Some of them have different amounts of powder in the casings. Some are duds. They don't explode. Russia relies on mass volume, just saturating a grid square.
And Ukraine?
Ukraine is focusing on smart volume.
This is the base bleed technology I've seen mentioned.
Yes. They are prioritizing shells with base bleed units. It's a little gas generator at the bottom of the shell that fills the vacuum behind it, reducing drag.
Which means it flies farther.
Much farther. It lets a standard shell fly up to 40 kilometers.
So if you can shoot 40 kilometers and the Russian gun can only shoot 30 kilometers...
Yeah. You can destroy them with impunity. You are out of their range, but they are in yours. So if Ukraine hits parity in numbers, 4 million versus 4 million, but maintains superiority in range and accuracy, the balance of power shifts dramatically.
It's an incredible journey. I mean, we've gone from what was essentially shell starvation begging for every round to a booming, cost-effective domestic industry.
One that uses American safety for propellants and Ukrainian ingenuity for assembly.
And one that is incredibly resilient. By spreading production out propellants in Arkansas, steel in Ukraine, fuses from Czechia, assembly in decentralized plants, they've built a system that is very hard for Russia to decapitate.
It shows that while Russia might have size, Ukraine has agility.
And in the modern world, agility is lethal.
There is one final thought I think we need to consider, something that goes beyond this war.
What's that?
If Ukraine succeeds in this, if they can produce NATO standard munitions at 2,500 euro, while NATO members are paying 4,000 euro or 5,000 euro, what does that do to the global arms market after the war?
That is a fascinating thought. Ukraine becoming the Foxconn of artillery, essentially. They will emerge from this, not just as a victor, but as the world's most efficient, battle-tested arms manufacturer. They will have the volume and the price point that Western Europe can't currently match.
Wow.
They could reshape the global defense industry for decades.
From the battlefield to the marketplace, that is definitely something to mull over. You've been listening to Defense Report by Alex, where we analyze the latest in military strategy, global defense, and advanced weaponry.
It's been a pleasure analyzing this with you.
And before you go, a final reminder.
No?
Subscribe to Defense Reports, your trusted source for timely, in-depth military and defense analysis. We'll see you next time. Keep supporting us so we can continue bringing you the latest developments from Ukraine and around the world.